Welcome back, and we now have our aforementioned special guest, along with Kelly. Very happy to be joined by Joe Pasternack, the men's head basketball coach at UCSB in his 8th season. Coach, thank you for being here. You're now in your 8th year, and you are the winningest coach in program history. You have 2 regular season championships, 2 Big West Conference championships, and you've taken the team to the NCAA tournament twice in the last 4 years. Take us back to your early roots with Coach Bobby Knight and eventually with other coaches that have developed you and influenced you along the way. And tell us in your own words, your story of how you ended up here in Santa Barbara.
Well, thanks for having me, Josh. Coaching college basketball was always my dream. Growing up, I played, but I was vertically challenged. I had self-awareness to know I wasn't going to be an NBA player, so the next best thing was to be a coach. So I chose to go to Indiana University to be a basketball coach and learn how to become a basketball coach under Coach Knight. It was an incredible learning experience. It was the best 3-credit class that I learned coaching basketball with Bobby Knight every single day at Indiana University. And, I say all the time, if you want to be a lawyer, you go to Harvard. If you wanted to be a basketball coach back then, you become a manager at Indiana. And we've had some amazing people that have gone through the program. Dusty May is now at Michigan. Lawrence Frank's the president of the Los Angeles Clippers. So it was just an incredible training ground to become a coach. And so very fortunate to do that. And then from there, I was lucky enough to get a job at Cal Berkeley at age 22 and was there for 8 years, from 22 to 30 years old. And then at 30, I became the head basketball coach at University of New Orleans. So I was the youngest head coach in America. I didn't know what I was doing, but it was an incredible learning experience by doing. And then after Hurricane Katrina, University of New Orleans was going out of D1, so I went and became the associate head coach at Arizona. Was there for 6 years and had an incredible learning experience again under Sean Miller, who is one of the winningest coaches, active coaches in college basketball. So had some great people to learn under, and then was very fortunate to land the job here at Santa Barbara.
Let me ask you about your presence as a coach. So members of the community, even listeners of this podcast, will notice that you bring a lot of energy with you. I don't know that anyone who knows you will characterize you as the calmest person in the room. So where does that come from? That energy, that drive, that tenacity? Tell us about that.
I think whenever there's no difference between your passion and your profession, you'll never work a day in your life. And I love what I do. I love everything I do, every part of the job, whether it's recruiting, coaching, teaching, demanding, showing film, fundraising, marketing. That's what I love to do, and it's just my personality.
We talked with Kelly about a lot of important coaches and leaders and molders of men and women. You've obviously recruited and developed some NBA players. You've recruited players that have played internationally outside of the NBA. But talk to us a little bit about your methodology for who you recruit, the kinds of character traits you're looking for, and perhaps leaders that have developed under you outside of the world of basketball.
Well, it started at Cal Berkeley, recruiting players. And I think for me personally, and getting this from Coach Knight, it's setting guys up for the rest of their lives. That's what this is all about. And, you always ask, what's your why? That would be one of my whys, why I do this, is to prepare them for their lives. And Omar Wilkes is a young man. I coached him at Cal Berkeley and was at Arizona, and he was done with his pro career. He called me and he said, Coach, I need a job. And it's like, so I got him a job at a sports agency, Octagon, and then he went on to go to Clutch, and now he's like the head of Fanatics. And so those are the greatest stories, is setting these guys up for the rest of their lives. And when you're recruiting them, getting to know them, sometimes you don't have much time to get to know them and really understand their character. You have to do unbelievable research, and as a coach, you don't bat 1,000. I've made a million mistakes in recruiting character, the wrong character. And so you try to find young men that love the game of basketball, number one, because then you're not motivating them every single day. Motivated to be pros, because I think if they want to be pros, they're so self-motivated to compete. And at the level and the stakes we're going after, they have to really want it badly. This can't be just something, they're coming to Santa Barbara to go to the beach. They have to want to be a pro and take it seriously, because we take this very, very seriously. And then doing background, talking to their parents, their families, their coaches, their teachers, their strength coaches, to find out exactly who they really are. And I think you got to do the best you can, talking and doing background checks. And again, you're not going to bat 1,000, and we haven't. We've made mistakes. But you have to, hit as close to 1,000 as possible for you to have a good team.
Well, there may have been some mistakes, but you've had folks who have not played in the NBA who have continued to make an impact in Santa Barbara. I mean, Ajari Sani, who's playing professionally in Europe, when he comes back, he runs youth clinics. He's a one-on-one coach. Parents know him. Parents seek him out. Right, here's a kid, a man who obviously wants to give back to the community, in part based on what he learned in your program. Rob and I have had the opportunity to help people who also went through your program, who've chosen a different path. You want to talk about the experience you had with Yaakov, who's just a fantastic person.
Yeah, so Josh introduced me to Yaakov, and essentially there was a lot of what Josh was saying. Basketball has not led me to the professional side. What do I do now? And it was just really, I think, humbling in a lot of ways, just to understand that he needed a lot of help in terms of direction, but the foundation that he built with your program and with athletics, he had everything already there. And so it was great, and it still is great to talk with him, and he's just landed his first thing. So
That's awesome. A lot of our guys, our first year here, we had a young man, Leland King. He transferred here. He was all Big West, double machine. He was 6'5", undersized, went pro for about a year, and then we got him a job. Patrick Flood with UBS set him up in LA to put him with UBS. And he tried that for a little bit, didn't love it. Now he's going to go work for Adidas with someone, Eric Siegel, who's in town. And then Gage Gomez was a walk-on for us. And Gage Gomez, we set him up as well with Patrick Flood. And he's here doing UBS and working as a financial planner and wealth manager. So setting these guys up for the rest of their lives. Max Heidegger will be the last guy. He was a stud. He's making big money overseas. Every year he gets to a point where he wants to get out of pro basketball. And so even yesterday, he texts me, he goes, "Coach, I need a job. I'm getting out of this. I'm done. I'm retiring." And so
Max said this?
Max Heidegger. So I always tell him, "Now, are you sure? Because if I make the call, you have to do it." And so we're going to set him up with Jordan Kaplan and Douglas Emmett, a commercial real estate firm in LA. He wants to do commercial real estate, and he's a former UCSB backer. So it's amazing the power of the UCSB alumni and the relationships we built to set these guys up for the rest of their lives. And one of the biggest things we preach in recruiting is this is not a 1, 2, 3, or 4 years decision. This is a 50-year decision when you choose UC Santa Barbara, because of our relationships with all the alumni and boosters and people in this community that'll set you up for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, Eric Siegel, who you mentioned, is a friend of mine and a wonderful guy who's invested in the future of young athletes, men and women throughout UCSB once they graduate. Here we are recording this episode in the recording studio of Sonos and Goleta, who has long had an internship and postgraduate relationship with UCSB to the extent that they can hire student athletes. They know they're coming out of good programs. I want to switch gears and talk about an important member, I think, of the current men's basketball community. I think a lot of coaches, high-powered, high-octane coaches, come in and just want it to be their show. Don't want a lot of help from other people, right? But here you are, 8th year, wildly successful, and you've got Coach Jerry Pym, who comes to practice, who comes to games, and I sit next to him. He's involved. He's got things to say, right? Part of that is because he's a legendary and he knows the game, but part of it is I'm sure you have a relationship that allows for that, and the players listen to him. So talk about that a little bit.
When I first got here, first couple of weeks in Santa Barbara, development officer had set it up for me to have lunch with him. And Coach Pym and I just hit it off. It's crazy because the guy that got me the job as a manager at Indiana was his assistant, Jerry Gimmelstob. So basketball's a small world. and we just hit it off. And for me, I respect older coaches. I'm a young coach trying to learn the game, and to get advice from him was amazing. He hadn't been around really the program since he um, was let go, and to have another set of eyes is amazing. And so he's been amazing. He set us up with some incredibly people. Jeff Henley, he plays golf with every Saturday, set us up with him, and that's the reason we got the Thunderdome rebuilt and all the chairback seating. And so that's just one of the biggest impacts. But every time I call him after games, and he was a coach, he's gone through it, and I can be myself and vent to him, and have that other set of ears to watch, as he's been to so many Sweet 16 and Elite Eights, and he's seen it all and coached against the best of the best. So to have an older coach as another set of eyes and ears is amazing. And he comes to every single practice, every single day, every single away game. He flies there, and it's given him a new life as well.
You know, to the point of him being at away games and the level of respect that I think you and the program have for him. I've been fortunate enough to come to some of those away games with Jay and Marcia Glazer and Coach Pim. And at halftime, you've got various graduate assistants that have all the stats and they're bringing it to all the coaches. And that's what you do at halftime, right? One of the guys runs up to the stands and gives a stat sheet to Coach Pim. And he's looking at the bench, right? This is not just a fan. This is the guy who's adding value, who's a part of the program at how old? At what age? I have no idea.
86.
Unbelievable. By the way, he looks 66. Speaking of Jay and Marcia Glazer, right? The landscape of recruiting and basketball has changed dramatically. We've talked about this. You've got NIL. You've got players making money for the first time. So before we get into the nuances of this and how it's helped UCSB, can you give us a very basic layman's definition of what it means? Like, how does it work today for you, for example?
Yeah, so every young man is now allowed name, image, likeness, NIL it's called, where they're able to benefit off their name, being a basketball player. And so we have a collective called Blueprint, and Blueprint has Arkansas, Kansas, UNLV, Gonzaga, Arizona. And so boosters are able to donate to Blueprint, and companies and businesses are able to donate through marketing expenses to Blueprint. And then Blueprint, the company, is able to make collective deals with the individual athletes for their name, image, and likeness.
So in the practical sense, the players end up in the community how? What are they doing in exchange?
So we had a booster who came up with an unbelievable idea. He said, let's be different than all the other schools. And we're going to let our players not just sign an autograph and get paid, or go to a dinner and get paid just for their appearance fees. We want them to go out in the community and actually make a difference. And so our players have community service. So they go to the Boys and Girls Club, they go to Cottage Hospital, they go to the fire station, they go to all types of 501c3 nonprofit organizations, the whole team, they volunteer their time. And then with that, that's how they get their name, image, and likeness.
Got it. I think it's important, and I want to be clear that neither of you have asked me to say this. In addition to contributing to NIL, if a listener wants to, speaking beyond just the men's basketball program, there are opportunities for local businesses to create joint, mutually beneficial marketing and branding sponsorships with teams that play at the Thunderdome at Harder Stadium, right? And this is my observation, not a paid commercial announcement, but there are a million opportunities beyond what already exists with Cottage Hospital and others to help the athletic department in this way.
Yes, we're really incredibly thankful. For the past 2 years, we've partnered with. We're up at about 40 different local groups and companies that are partnering with UC Santa Barbara and UC Santa Barbara Athletics in particular, that are highlighted at many of them highlighted at the Thunderdome. We talked about earlier in the current landscape the need to be able to be creative around revenue generation that supports the department in its entirety. Sports across the board, both our men's and women's programs. And then Joe's certainly referring to the other opportunities for students directly to get involved and be able to earn additional compensation. And so we're really thankful of all of the wonderful sponsors. The Cottage Hospital certainly is one of them that we mentioned. Santa Barbara Airbus, quite a lot at Kyle's Kitchen right here, locally. And there's a number, like I said, we're up at about 40. That allows for student athletes to thrive. That allows for us to bring community in. You'll see at the basketball games promos that we're able to give away, hyping up students in our student section, being able to throw out jerseys when threes are made, or all of those things. We're really incredibly thankful and trying to grow that support arm, that sponsorship arm, that marketing arm that allows for us to really lean in and give back to the community. So that is, certainly necessary and in totality done through the department. And then, students have an opportunity as well to find their niche and utilize their name, image, likeness, and their participation as a student athlete to be able to give back to community and or earn additional, financial options, which in a lot of cases is supporting students' ability to go to school, to live in Santa Barbara, to live in the housing that they live in, and those kinds of things.
So you just mentioned, jersey giveaway, for example, and Coach, you mentioned being out in the community. The reason I chose to put on, the listeners can't see it, but I'm wearing my black short sleeve collared Adidas Santa Barbara basketball shirt. The reason I put this on today, I've been waiting till this recording to share this with you. I go out in the community, I wear this. Grown men come up to me and say, "Hey, Coach, how's the season going?" Right? I do not dissuade them in any way. Right? I offer my own observations. I can tell you later what defense we're switching to. But the point is,
Josh has you playing zone defense this year.
You should hear the things I say to people when they think I'm a coach. The point is, the team is accessible. Right? You can come to practice. You can be around the program. You can be around all teams. You can participate. You can show your support. I think it's a pretty unique experience for most UCSB Gaucho fans in town.
Well, to that point, I'm curious, Coach and Kelly, how can specific people further support the basketball and the athletics program at UCSB? We've talked about some companies and some establishments, but how can members of the community better support UCSB and the overall athletics program?
We started this, Rob, talking about what a special community this is. And I think our hope is, again, that we're connecting with and serving this community in every way possible. And hope, again, that's mutual. And there's lots of ways, right? It's you talked about coming out with your kids and coming out to a game. It's participating. It's coming out to a game and being excited and celebrating that. It's about, hosting watch parties if we're traveling. And, it's spreading the word, it's sharing on social media, and certainly all the way to if there's the capability to support financially, that's a really big impact for us for, our ability to support student athletes all the way from scholarship to, extra meals to traveling, as well as, Joe mentioned the Thunderdome being updated, all of our facilities, right? They need updating and ongoing maintenance. So again, I'd say we are so incredibly thankful to be in this community with these people and this alumni group and all across the world. And our hope is that every Gaucho will engage in whatever way they can, from participating, from sharing our stories, from celebrating each other, from the history to the present, all the way to, if you have the ability to, get involved again in financially supporting through philanthropy or through sponsorship or through other means. And we're just really honored and appreciative of everyone who is willing to participate in whatever way that makes sense for them.
I will say that Mia is fantastic, and her coordination, communication, providing all the information. Have done some sponsorship myself with my company, and she just makes it simple.
Mia works in your department.
Yeah, we're like I said, we have really great. We start off talking about the people, right, and the coaches and the staff that we have. And so Mia is part of our development office, and again, we have a great group of people within that office, as well as our ticketing and our internal supports that really again are deeply passionate about caring for our gauchos, and that's our current people, our current student athletes, and that's also the community. So Rob, that's really exciting to hear. You've connected with Mia and she's able to get that information out. And that's our goal, is to be able to share this great information and have relationships, meaningful relationships, as we continue to try to, grow and share our story.
Coach, I have a specific question for you. So you had talked about the leadership and Bob Knight, and I assume most listeners know who Bob Knight is, or Bobby Knight, or maybe some of the videos that you've seen of him. But it just so happens that my wife's really good friend is the wife of Brian Eskildsen, who you've recruited here as one of your assistant coaches. He said fantastic things about you, but what I'm getting at is, what are the skills that you're teaching your assistant coaches that is consistent with the type of leadership that you're teaching your student athletes?
That's a great question. We actually had a meeting this morning and with the staff, and what I told them today is this: is we're struggling with a certain player, and when you get these guys in the transfer portal, you only have maybe 8 months with them. It's down to 5 months, and I explained to them they're never going to trust us like they're going to trust their families, their parents, or whoever the person is. And I explained to them, to try to teach them this, is that you have to find out who is the most influential person in their lives, and then we have to capture them on our team, and for them to trust us, that person. It could be a mother, a father, a coach. And then that person has to convince them to believe us, to trust us, because we don't have enough time to build relationships. That in the past, it was like you had a year recruiting. I recruited guys to Arizona where you recruited them for 4 years. Aaron Gordon, Stanley Johnson, these guys. You don't have that time anymore. It's really 48-hour official visit. And it's like, okay, you're married after 48 hours. Now, how's that going to work? Like, imagine if you married someone and you got to know her or him for 48 hours. It's like, how do you trust that person? So we have to do it backwards, and you have to capture and get a belief from their parents. And then that's when you can demand and be really tough on the young man, so they will trust you. The only way it is to get that other person in their life to trust you. And so just I was thinking about that today, because I was talking to a parent today on the phone at 6:30 in the morning back on the East Coast, and I explained to him, your son is not going to play unless he does this, this, and this. And he's making progress, and I understand. He told me in my office, the only person I'm going to listen to is my dad. That's who I trust. So in turn, he said, well, Coach, the reason why he's starting to make a turn for the better is I told him, I trust you, and he can trust you. And that's what I was explaining to our coaches today. When you asked that, it spurred that, is you have to have a relationship and with the person that each player is closest to.
That's that's an incredible perspective. Not to bring my wife into this conversation, but she's a pediatrician at Cottage, and I think what I've learned is the most difficult part of her job is managing the parents. Obviously, you have the clinical side of it and making sure this kid is okay, but you also have to manage the parents, communicate with the parents, which I never would have thought about, but that's a huge part of coaching.
Absolutely. I mean, because like I said, you'll never have the relationship with the kid that the parents are going to have with the kid. And some of the best of the best, I got this from Tom Izzo, is he's really incredibly tough and demanding on his players, but he has incredible relationships with their circle of people, and you have to have that. AJ Mitchell's a great example. His mom could have taken him and transferred to any school in the country. He could have been paid $1 million last year, and she kept him here, and that's because of our relationships with her. And that's the biggest part of, I think, coaching these kids in today's college basketball.
If I could jump into, I wanted to say something about Joe and really how special he is in developing and growing. And you were asking about coaches. I think one of the things that's really special is, first of all, he's a coach that has incredible attention to detail and vision, and not afraid to have that communication up front. And I think that communication up front with his staff allows for the staff to grow. Here's my vision. Let's buy in and build on this together. Here's what I'd like to see. And now let's work through all the details. And it's not micromanaging, but it's understanding that there's steps in the process that have to be met, outcomes that have to be met to get the final outcome that you're looking for. He does a really good job of that, of bringing people in, communicating that, and holding, sort of everyone accountable to seeing the big vision.
Yeah, I think we should talk about the output of that success. I can't think of another mid-major that's produced the number of professional players that you've produced, right? I mean, everyone knows Gabe Vincent at this point. Lakers signed a big contract. AJ Mitchell, arguably one of the better preseason NBA starts from anyone, anywhere, right? Miles Norris just signed with Memphis. This doesn't even talk about the number of people that are playing elsewhere internationally. Talk about that success compared to any other mid-major. I mean, how many NBA players have you produced?
We've had 5 NBA guys in 7 years that have touched the NBA, and a lot of that is luck. I mean, we've just been fortunate to have really good players, and we've been very lucky to do that, and we have to continue to do that.
I appreciate him saying it's luck. It's not luck. It's, again, the attention to detail. I think certainly it's the recruitment, Joe, and bringing in the right people. But again, if you look, Joe is someone who has attention across the board. And so being able to break down film with those student athletes, being able to be on the court and be demanding and be direct, allows for the student athletes and those players to get better every single day. If you saw the intensity of practice and what you demand, but what also they demand from each other. He's created a culture where it's an environment where there's also a lot of self-policing and pushing of each other and high expectations, and working with a motor and an intensity that's really, really exciting. And also developmentally, everyone gets better. You don't have an opportunity in a program to not want to get better. If you don't, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because as Rob and I know from executive recruiting, there's an old adage that people don't go to work for a company, they go to work for a manager, right? That's the relationship that you start off with. People are coming to UCSB to play for you.
I think absolutely. Obviously the place is an amazing place, incredible academics, incredible weather, location, but it's all about relationships. That's what this is about, and building a relationship, a trusting relationship in a very short period of time, and convincing them that this is a better place than their alternatives, and that's a huge part of recruiting. And obviously, NIL has now come to be a big part of that. So fundraising is huge, because at the end of the day, that's a big part of their decision criteria right now.
We have that community support, but not only have you recruited players, but also coaches. I'm just going to pick one because he's top of mind. I think he gave me this shirt. I mean, Derek Glasser, right? I think captain of the Arizona State team as a sophomore, all-time assist leader, played with James Harden, right? I mean, it's not just players, right? You may have an individual relationship at a certain moment in time, but you have 4 other coaches, including guys like Derek, that have meaningful careers behind them. I mean, that has to go a long way in both recruiting and retaining players.
No question. I think you win with people. And, obviously Kelly's sitting here, and I've been at Indiana, Cal, Arizona, New Orleans, and you cannot, first of all, have any chance to be successful if you don't have an administration and the support system within the administration to be successful. And there's so many head college basketball coaches right now that are not aligned with their administration, and it makes it impossible. Kelly, you talk about the NBA players, 3 or 4 of the guys we mentioned, she was the SWA at the time, and she had a huge, huge part in getting them admitted to this school, and coaching us in what they needed to do, to make sure that they got admitted to this school. development, marketing. It takes a village. Assistant coaches, they're recruiting. They have their eyes out there. They're developing. They're developing the players. They're recruiting, helping to recruit the players. And so you win with people, and it takes a huge village. We've been very fortunate to have some really great assistant coaches. A couple have gone on to be head coaches now, Ben Tucker, John Riley, that have helped build this program. And our vision when we took over was to try to build this to be the Gonzaga of our conference. And it takes a long time to do that, and you have to have incredible resources. But we're just at the beginning stages of building this program and competing every day to get to that point. And I think when you ask the question about Santa Barbara, is when you're in Spokane, Washington, there's no Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, or NFL. At Gonzaga, the whole community rallies around Gonzaga. And we hope to do that here in Santa Barbara, that the whole community comes out and cheers on the Gauchos.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a packed house almost every game.
How do you both stay so humble? I mean, just talking about the experience that you've had and what you've brought to UCSB and the professional players that you've developed, Kelly, your background and coming here and all the pieces that you've touched and what Coach says about you. Is there any simple theme there that you can share with our guests from just upbringing and being so humble?
Thank you for saying that. I don't know if it's being humble, like we talked about before. I think and maybe this is partly a fit here. It's and Joe mentioned this. It's being passionate about what we do and feeling really honored to have the opportunity to serve and support this, this campus and community. And I also think there's a bit of a fuel and a fire of you have to be again resourceful and care about relationships and community and be focused on details here to be successful, to excel at the level that we have and continue to want to excel. You've got to be committed to development and learning. And so again, I don't think it's about being humble. It's truly from the bottom of my heart. I'm honored to be part of this community. I'm honored to be part of this campus. I'm honored to serve with great leaders like Joe Pasternack here and our head coaches. And so really to be able to serve and support student athletes in our community is, again, a privilege.
Coach Joe Pasternack, Kelly Barsky, the athletic director, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
This is Josh Narva. Along with my co-host Rob Gross, we'd like to thank all of the people who helped make this podcast a reality. This episode was edited and produced by Rachel DePass. We'd like to thank Sophia Gaines for her creative input and Conrad Kono for his original music. Check him out on Spotify or Apple Music. And speaking of music, this episode was recorded at the corporate offices of Sonos in Santa Barbara. Their mission is to fill homes with music and create immersive listening experiences. Learn more at sonos.com. Thank you for listening. For more information on the podcast overall and the next episode, follow us on social media.